We are live now, so yes, go ahead, please.
Okay, I'm sorry. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين وجعلنا للمتقين إماما ربي إني مسني الضر وأنت أرحم الراحمين لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إني كنت من الظالمين وصلى اللهم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه واتباعه وسلم تسليما كثيرا 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 آمين.
Mariam and Ryan, whenever you're ready. Thank you.
Okay. 24th remedy. O you who look after innocent, sick children, or the elderly, who resemble innocent children, you have before you important trade for the hereafter. The procure is through your enthusiasm and effort. It is established by the people of reality that the illness of innocent children are like training for their delicate bodies and injections and dominical training to allow them to withstand in the future the upheavals of the world, that in addition to many instances of wisdom pertaining to the child's worldly life, instead of the atonements for sins in adults which looks to spiritual life and is the means to purifying life. Illnesses are like injections ensuring the child's spiritual progress in the future or in the hereafter, and that the merits accruing from such illness pass to the book of good works of the parents, and particularly of the mother who through the mystery of compassion prefers the health of her child to her own health.
As for looking after the elderly, it is established in sound narrations and many historical events that together with receiving huge reward to receive the prayers of the elderly and especially of parents, and to make happy their hearts and serve them loyally, leads to happiness in both this world and the next. And it is established by many events that a fortunate child who obeys to the letter his elderly parents will be treated similarly by his children. But if a wretched child wounds his parents, he will be punished by means of many disasters in this world and in the hereafter. Yes, Islam requires that one looks after not only relatives who are elderly or innocent, but also elderly believers if one encounters them through the mystery of the true brotherhood of belief, and that one serves to one's utmost ability the venerable, sick, elderly if they are in need of it.
Thank you guys for reading that. So let's go to the first paragraph and see. So Mariam, you read the first paragraph, right? So any words do you want to, anything you thought you want an explanation on, or anything you think we should talk about? So, I mean, I know you know, it says, oh, you who look after innocent children, or the elderly who resemble innocent children. So there's a comparison being made between sick children and the elderly as well. And according to the author, he thinks they are both the elderly that, you know, because they need help as well at a particular stage when some, you know, grandparents or other or great grandparents to become old and they need help. So they also, just like you would care for a child, you have to care for the elderly as well. But the word innocent was interesting to me because you're weak in that state, right? As a child, as a baby, for example, the baby goes through certain scenarios, needs food. Can it go to the fridge, go to the kitchen to get food? No, so the baby needs help. That's why there are other people who get employed to help the baby to get the food and everything. So, and let's say the baby gets sick, and you say, "Oh my God, little poor thing, the baby, it got sick. Now what do we do?" So, by the nature, because the baby didn't do anything, like it's just doing what is the way it's made. This is an important point, that the way the baby is made, the way the elderly state of the elderly that they're given, they're made in that particular way. So there's nothing for them to do. They cannot, do much in that state. They're helpless beings. So in that, whatever is given to them, they feel that, hey, they are kind of innocent in that. But as adults, we kind of tend to think that, oh, I am doing this, I am doing something, it's my doing in my actions. And then we kind of take a different kind of state of being in our, how we may think that way. So this is something that we have to, we can easily visualize, the state of a baby and an elderly who is helpless. And here we are, we think we can do whatever we are. So it's a good way of thinking, or are we really the ones who are doing things? So, I mean, it's good to be, in an innocent kind of position, where everything else in the universe kind of serves you. So that's what I took, in the first sentence. But of course, if you have comments, you can always, ask those, or if you have, yeah, exactly, whatever you want to state. If some words that you thought you want to highlight, please do so. And then the author adds on that, this is, if you are surrounded by maybe some children or maybe some elderly people, it's a great opportunity to make a trade. And of course, the trade that, what is that trade that is being made? We can talk about that, because before you, the other says important trade for the hereafter. So by living in this world, we know that this world is here for us to do, basically practice our existence and try to learn as much as we can about what we are supposed to be doing here. And in that learning, there is a trade for the hereafter that is, that is going to be made. So would anybody like to share their thoughts? What that trade for the hereafter, what is the significance of that? Because having this, taking care after children or elderly, is like an important trade for the hereafter. So you have to procure it through enthusiasm. So yeah, don't delay, just, you have to work it out. And, as you can see, like mothers, they always are very good with their children, and the parents, especially, their focus becomes their children all of a sudden. Right before that, there were other areas of focus, but once the children arrive, then the area of focus becomes the children. So this trait that you have, procure your enthusiasm and effort. So I see a hand up. So Maria Marianne, please go ahead.
So I took away something from the second paragraph. So I took away when it said, and it is established by many events that a fortunate child who obeys to the letter his elderly parents will be treated similarly by his children, but if a wretched child wounds his parents, he will be punished by means of many disasters in this world and in the hereafter. So I took away that, like, one cannot hurt some elder, and specifically your parents. Otherwise, that's a very bad deed, and that's a very big sin. And um and and also in general, that's very bad to do, because they treat you well, they help you with things, and you're treating them like the opposite way they treat you.
Okay. I also took that away, because, like, let's say there's a good kid who always takes care of his parents, and he's a dutiful child. But if the wretched child just wounds his parents in many ways, like, meaning, like, his words, his style of speaking, his personality, his actions, whatever he does, like, it also means to, like, how, going back to sincerity, if there's actually sincerity in one's heart, or in, like, that, specifically in this child, the wretched child, or any other child, um And what I also took away over here was like, you can't like, if you're an elderly person and you really can't do much, you feel helpless, but you can't give up on hope. The Creator is there, like as we all know. He gives the illness and he takes the illness. And as for the like elderly's, like children, if they have children, they take care of them like as their own daughter or son or whatever. It goes back to them. They're basically how how like a mother takes care of her child, and one day the mother becomes old and the child takes care of her mother. So it's basically the same thing.
And also, when I said a wretched children, one of wretched child, it's like I understand from that kind of like the parents take care of him or her, but then kind of like it's kind of like betrayal if you think about it, because you're giving them the wrong thing instead of giving them care. Like how I said, when the parents grow up and grow older, instead of taking care of them, like I don't know what you end up in doing, like not taking care, just live your own life. And I understand from wretched child, like how does the child um begin to have evil inside of him or her by like being rude to the parents, even though the parents brought up good. Like it's kind of evil's work.
The devil.
Thank you guys for your comments. That was great. You made a lot of good points, mashallah. And that was pertaining to the second paragraph, as you kind of pointed out about that. Mariam pointed out about that phrase about what is it to be a fortunate child and who is responsible and takes care of whatever their responsibilities are before them, and one who is reckless and wretched and hurts their whatever they're encountering with their parents especially, and then by being wretched they face the consequences. So we will get to that again, but let's try to go step by step from the first paragraph. And we were discussing about, okay, so there is this opportunity. If we go back to the first line, like second sentence, you have before you an important trait for the hereafter, basically. So whatever you're encountering, so at any stage that the individual is, as an adult, I have my responsibilities. As kids, you have your own responsibilities. You have to take care of the assignments you get from school, whatever your parents, maybe they ask you to water the plants, so you have to do that. If you have pets, you have to take care of the pets. So you have your own sets of responsibilities. I have my own set of responsibilities. Individuals in their professions have their own sets of responsibilities. So everybody has their own things that they are doing and they have to do. So what is this important trait for the hereafter in the responsibilities that we have to do? So this is an example that this is one kind of responsibility, or this is one area of, if you look after innocent children and elderly, that is also to be taken as something that you can use to make an important trait for the hereafter. So would anybody like to share anything on what, how to take advantage and make the trade for the hereafter?
So it's interesting that you're saying on how do we understand this trade. So when we often think of trade, it's like a transaction in the worldly experiences here. But I think, and going back to really what the Quranic education is, it teaches us that how everything is an opportunity. So then I question, like, what is it that I'm trading? Because if everything becomes an opportunity for me to realize who am I, what am I, who's presenting me with this, why am I made in a way where, I'm imparted all these feelings. So just like Miriam and Ryan hinted in terms of, nobody likes to hurt anyone else, so like so many emotions, feelings get involved as well. And so trade for the year after, I would think of it as an opportunity to get to know me. Who am I? And when I get to know myself, I get to know who is giving me existence, who's providing me with everything. Just as a starting point.
Yeah, thank you. That's a good start. And if anybody, feel free to write it in the chat box, or you can raise your hand to add to this comment. And as Faria was kind of pointing out about the trade, when it's not this is a transaction of some sort, but this is, it reminds me of one of the verses in the Quran, verily God has purchased the property from the believers so that paradise might be theirs, right? So this particular phrasing reminds me of that particular verse in the Quran that, so what are we selling, and what are we trading with? And your property, so what is my property? So what is, like for example, when a farmer sows the seeds and he kind of grows some fruits and vegetables, he goes and makes the trade. Is that the kind of trade I'm doing? Or, and get a price for that? Or so what is the actual trade? And Faria said, actually, the trade is to live according to the responsibilities that I have in this world and get to know myself. And consequently, by knowing that I am a person who needs to be given existence, who is in need of the things that I am, satisfaction that I'm looking for in this world, and I get to know who can provide it. And then it goes to my actually getting to know who my Lord is. But this important trade, again, is for me like an opportunity. So whatever I am presented with, whatever tasks, whatever duties, whatever, if I have to do my homework, yeah, that's my responsibility at the moment. I have to cook food, that is my responsibility. If I have to grow some plants, okay, or whatever I need to do, that's my responsibility. But all those responsibilities is the opportunity to realize, hey, though, for example, if I am doing my homework, this ability for me to read and to write and to think about things, where did I get my thinking from? Did I make my thinking? Is it coming from my brain cell, or is it what? So the quality of thinking has been provided to me, so I have to realize this. That is what the trade means, that I have to recognize who is the owner of the trade of my my ability to think. Who is the owner of my ability to see? Who is the owner of my ability to type and write? So whatever I'm doing, so in the case of looking after innocent children, who gave me that compassion? Who is the owner? Did I make my own compassion? Did I get it myself? Did my heart, maybe a particle of my heart became, that produced the compassion? No, where is that quality of compassion coming from? And so that is the important trade for the hereafter, is actually realizing all these qualities belong to him, and I'm acting. My compassion is a reflection. Just I'm like a mirror, and the quality of compassion, mercy is reflecting on the mirror, but it's not mine. The mirror cannot say, I am the owner, I hold the reflection of a light, for example. Then the light shines on the mirror. The mirror cannot say, hey, let's say the sun, you have a sun and the mirror is taking the light from the sun, and can the mirror say, hey, this is my light? Or the light is from the sun? So it is just, the mirror cannot say that I own the light. Mirror is only reflecting the light. So realizing that I am reflecting the light of the sun, so I'm reflecting the quality of my maker, of the Lord of the universe, that is the important trait for the hereafter, I think. So anybody else would like to add anything? Or
Yeah. So, like the next sentence is saying, procure with through your enthusiasm and effort. So pretty much what you mentioned makes me realize that, it's such a relief to disown everything. Like, I'm not the owner of any of my feelings. I'm not the source of existence of any of any of my experiences either. Like you said, things are just flowing through me, just like maybe like a tap water, like, and water is flowing. So water can, like the tap cannot say, hey, guess what, I'm bringing the water into existence. No, it's just flowing. And I think living with this awareness is such a relief. Otherwise, it's a burden. Like the life here can become burdensome. And yeah, I think, and that's why the author is really drawing our attention to this feeling of enthusiasm or doing things with eagerness, because all I have to do is be aware and recognize that things are flowing through me. I'm not the source of existence of it, and that's it. I mean, it's easily said than done, but I think that's what the training is.
Yeah, thank you. So glad you highlighted that point about procure it, which is that opportunity to make the trade for the hereafter through your enthusiasm and effort.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to act, actually. I have to do it. And I have to be really do it enthusiastically. It's not like, oh, I have to do this boring thing again. Oh my God. It's not like I would take it as a burden. Right. So that's the attitude that one will, has to have enthusiasm and effort in terms of making this trade. Like if kind of mom say, oh my God, I have to look after my kid, sick. Oh my God, this is terrible. Like I am suffering here and I have to do this extra job. Or there's this, enthusiasm and opportunity to relate it to your Lord and your, to learn more about him, to experience the qualities and go and do that, the service that one is supposed to do. So that I think is important in how we take it. It's our perception again. To do we take it as a burden or do we take it as something that is an opportunity, which is good for me?
Yeah.
That I'm actually, benefiting from this opportunity to be able to serve something. It goes into the social aspect of how to practice our the qualities and to be at the service of for the purpose of our creation and to yeah, you want to say something?
Yeah, very true. No, and then also it goes into the whole dimension of human free will. So I'm free to shift my perception this way.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was great.
Very nice.
We can bring our attention to the part where it says illnesses are the injections ensuring the child's spiritual progress in the future and the hereafter. So this is a text on message for the sick. So I think we can connect this based out of what we've been saying about any kind of illness or sickness. It's really a means for me to progress in my journey in terms of realizing my reality, or that I'm not the source of existence of anything. Just like Rayan also mentioned, that the one who gives illness is the same one who gives health. So and the reason I bring this up is because it goes on saying that like a little innocent child going through all this, it may seem as such, but again, it's everything is just like a opportunity, a messenger, or a means for me to connect with the source of my existence.
I'm glad you started that. So before that sentence, there's another interesting sentence I wanted to touch base because.
Sure.
So the author says that the illnesses of innocent children are like training for their delicate bodies and injections and dominical training. So we can say our life also, as grown-ups, individuals, and it is a dominical training to withstand whatever lies ahead in our future. We are always in preparing for that. Every event is something that we learn from. I go to school and I learn from a grade level. Let's say if I go to third grade, I learn from the third grade level, then I have the opportunity to go to the fourth grade. When I take the fourth grade, and then I progress in a way that I learn the material that's required for the fourth grade, and I go to the fifth grade, and then after that, sixth grade. So the learning opportunity, the training never ends. It all goes while we have the opportunity here. We just go and learn and do the training. But this is the thing, the verse that, the sentence that says, in addition to many instances of wisdom pertaining to the child's worldly life. So this is part of the wisdom in terms of the child's life, but he makes it that instead of the atonement for sins in adults, so there's a comparison being made, like for the adults, instead of the atonement for sins in adults, which looks to spiritual life and is the means to purifying life. So sicknesses in adults, they have many other wisdom and purposes as well. And one of them is the seeking forgiveness, asking, for the sins that, the wrong, maybe the wrong attributions we may do. I would think that I'm in control of my body when I'm not in control of my body. Somebody else, the one who makes the body, is in control of me.
I didn't look at it like that. This is interesting.
So instead of in adults, there's this other purpose, but the child's worldly life, instead, for the child, it is which looks to spiritual life and the means to purifying it. So for the adults, it is a means to purify the human spirit.
Yeah, I didn't look at it that way. I'm glad you mentioned this one. So it's walking us through like the human development.
Yeah.
So in my younger stages, it's just beneficial where I'm learning about, like learning life lessons as well, that how the universe functions, illnesses and everything, how things come into existence.
Yeah.
But as I progress, so like you said, and the author is mentioning here, it becomes more of a spiritual journey where I use now the illness. Like in the past, I may have extracted some worldly lessons or life lessons from it, but now I extract existential lessons from it. Something like that.
Yeah, because as you progressed in your journey, the understanding also grows along with you, along with the growing of the body.
Sure.
The spirit also is learning through all the various, classes, education degrees that the human being has gone through. So just like in the, educational institution analogy, as much as you progress, you become more familiar with the matter or the subject that you are studying.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so that is how the human kind of makes progress.
Yep.
Thank you. So anybody else would like to comment on this paragraph, add their points?
Accruing from such illness passed to the book of good works of the parents.
So the illnesses are like injections. Interesting, right? And they're like, how injections, if something is
This is interesting.
there's some vaccine or some liquid that goes into your body. So illnesses are like that, very quickly.
Human side activated.
Ensuring the child's spiritual progress. So just like a vaccine, concept of vaccine is not to cure you right there, but it's to prevent you further, going when you, in the future, that you don't catch particular illnesses or sicknesses. It's like a defensive kind of system.
Make your spiritual immune system strong.
I mean, that's what I'm reading right now and thinking
that's
out
right.
loud
That's
here.
A good point, actually.
Ensuring the child's spiritual progress in the future and the hereafter. And the merits accruing from such illness pass to the book of good works of the parents.
What is that link?
Yeah, what does that mean?
Yeah, I don't get that link.
Anybody wants to speak to that? What does it mean to pass to the book of good works of the parents? So the merits accruing from such illnesses pass to the book of good works of the parents.
Perhaps, I don't know, I'm thinking perhaps, because like you were saying at the beginning, the parents have this responsibility to take care of the child. They're sick. I mean, they do it out of love and compassion. There's no I mean, there's no thinking in it, this is it. And so there's this connection or link that points to the one that's setting up this stage. It's there's no transaction basically in such responsibility. I'm looking for that unconditional love. Is that what you say? It's unconditional love, right, between parents.
You can use that. Yeah, but I liked what your thought process, mashallah. It's good that you linked it to the previous, how everything, the sickness also of other people becomes a learning for us, and it becomes gives us the opportunity to be able to serve, but not in our names, in the names of the one who brings the illness, who's taking care of everything about us, who's giving, the one who gives us health. He's the one who is in charge of our bodies. So that's the good works of the parents. It becomes when the parents are also caught, they take advantage of this
opportunity to
right.
connect.
They procure it, they take it with their enthusiasm. And so the good works of the parents, and particularly of the mother, who through the mystery of compassion prefers the health of her child to her own health.
Brother Adam has a comment on the chat. Perhaps he can.
So Brother Adam, please go ahead. What do you have to say?
Yeah, assalamu alaikum. I wanted to say that this passage seems to be giving really good response to someone who says, why should sickness happen to young children or young innocent children? If I remember correctly, the previous passages were speaking about it generally. Like, if you become sick, it helps you in many ways. It opens up the door to the hereafter and other things. But this passage is as though in some ways saying to a person who may be arguing, okay, you said so many things about sickness under general terms, which is okay, I don't deny it, but how come innocent children? And what about the elderly also? And I think he maybe, I don't know, he may be weaving multiple things here, because in a good way, because it's as though helping us understand how to interpret young children who become sick, and also the connection between them and the elderly, who we may not see as the same way. For example, in the beginning of the first sentence, saying that they resemble innocent children. Now, usually we don't think about elderly like innocent children. We don't put them in the same category. But he's bringing a good reminder to us that they are the same, or that they should be looked at in the same light. And so anyone who is in the service of this work, they should know what's being written here, so that they don't think about this only from a very material, or let's say only from this transient world perspective, right? So a lot of what I think what's been said, I'm not adding anything new. I'm just kind of confirming what's been said. And but yes, I agree. There's so much emphasis here, or education here, as to how to look at sickness in caring for the sick, the children and the elderly, with respect to a trade for the hereafter. So it should be done, of course, is as though renewing our sense of enthusiasm through this passage. Because when you think about it in this light, we should get excited to take care of the young and the innocent if they are sick, or the elderly even, based on some of these very strong points or ideas that are being shown. And the training, I don't know if it was, I think it was said, I just wanted to maybe go a little bit further. I was trying to think about what kind of training should, young, delicate bodies, newborns or toddlers or infants, if they were to get sick, I mean, how is that training for their life? And it's an interesting point that the author is like saying, look, even young ages have spirits, and they also need to be nurtured and developed. So, trying to help us understand that when you deal with a young child, it's not that they don't maybe understand, or that they don't are not experiencing something through their spiritual faculties or spiritual, to their spirits. They are, and we should be conscious of this. So if they are going through something, some kind of illness, it's as though preparing them for what they're going to, in their spirits, for what they will face in the world and in the rest of the world and in the life in this world, which also opens up the door to spiritual progress. And so I guess it's what I understand is that there's actually a very big spiritual, like almost like a spiritual world happening within the realm of a small infant or a small child or even an elderly. And it's from their side, but also brings in the caretaker, who the caretaker then gets involved and then also experiences something very spiritual. So like it's really kind of, it's interesting from those two sides. And one more thing, and I think we'll come to this in the second paragraph, but there's this point about, which I think Rayan and Mariam already brought to our attention, which is a good point, which was about the the not treating your parents well. And I was trying to make sense of, why should someone who didn't treat their parents well be given a hard life by their kids? I mean, yes, it would be just, that's true, but what's really underlying that? And I think that this last sentence that's highlighted brings it to our attention, because it says, the last part, and particularly of the mother who, through the mystery of compassion, prefers the health of her child to her own health. So if a mother prefers her child's health over her own health, then to treat a mother like this badly would be extremely repulsive, because the mother prefers her child's life over her own. And so if this mother grows old now, or father grows old, then to disassociate or treat badly this one, who in a sense cares for you, that the child more than their own self, which is also in a sense a kind of reflection of the mercy, which is said there, through the mystery of compassion, which I think we should maybe even discuss this word, mystery of compassion, because it is very mysterious how deep the compassion is that a mother has for their child. But if that exists, and that is so special and so meaningful, then for a child to grow old and see their parents grow old and then just disregard them is as though disregarding such a meaningful thing, such a powerful thing, this mystery of compassion. And so for that reason, I think where it goes later, it talks about this issue of why the child will be treated so badly if he does that. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you, Adam, you made a lot of good comments and points here also, about the opportunity to, for example, in the first paragraph, to reawaken your sense of enthusiasm and effort. Every kind of scenario in life event should make us go for that, but as we kind of need reminders, and which is why this the general sense of illness is given, and your point about the innocent child being, going through the challenge or difficulties of illnesses, and how to, what's the wisdom behind that, and how do you understand and deal with that. And then I think you kind of answered it also along the way about how, the spiritual side of every being or everything in the universe, their connection with their source of existence, that spirit that is in training at every moment, and it is kind of the detraining for as they grow in make their spiritual progress and work towards their purpose in their life and their existence, what they are here for. And the last point you were making about the mystery of compassion and the health of her child to her, referring the health of her child to her own health. I liked how you tied that to the the second paragraph as well, because it's interesting what this mystery of compassion, and if we go to the example of the mirror, and if you understand that everything is a reflection, but it's coming from the source of, like, for example, in the mirror, the light reflecting on the mirror is coming from the sun. So the compassion in your mom is also a reflection of the compassion from your Lord, from the one who gives, who is the owner of compassion. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So that, in a way, if I am not seeing that there's a compassionate act, from my parents, and I am kind of ill-treating that compassion, I'm kind of slapping the compassion out of my, that I don't want this. I am not looking for that, and I'm kind of insulting my parents, as well as I'm insulting the reflection that they're doing, and so it goes to my insult of the owner of those qualities. So, which is very kind of a dangerous kind of thing to do, because here they are, somebody is kind of treating me in a way, but maybe I'm not liking it, but I'm sure that there must be a purpose, a reason, that it is for my benefit. How do I bring that understanding that, hey, with enthusiasm, okay, this is what I have to do, this is my thing, this is presented to me, I should take care of those responsibilities. But to be harsh and a wretched child who wounds his parents, of course, the punished by means of many disasters in this world and in the hereafter has a significance of, because it ties directly to the opportunity and your spiritual progress, how one is taking advantage of it or is just brushing it away, just not seeing it and just, disconnecting their, the qualities that they're supposed to read, or that's available, but I'm not open to receiving them. So I kind of deny the qualities, the compassion and the mercy that is being presented to me. So if this is becomes like a prayer of mine, hey, I'm denying this, and so what do I get in return? Yeah, I'm not looking to, my worldly life becomes meaningless, and of course I'm destroying my, because this is not my permanent home, I'm destroying my hereafter. I'm destroying, my purpose in existence in this world. So I kind of suffer the consequences here and now as well. So you want to say something?
Yeah, I think another point that Brother Adam also mentioned about, like, how come that the way I interact with my parents reciprocate also the way or is directly proportion to how my children are going to interact with me as well. I think there was a point that was touched upon as well. I think we've heard of that one as well, like, it's like a saying, what goes around comes around. And I think tying back to what was said in terms of like me not extracting meaning from any sort of interaction or relationship later on, I mean, because we are not on a learning stage here in this universe. So later on, if I feel that I'm treated the same way, then yeah, it's a teaching going on. It's a messenger that like where how do I explain the compassion, and is I think everything then just become a learning lesson in terms of, like you said, is the sun, where's the sunlight light coming from, the mirror itself or the sun? So I mean, since we are developing, so there are several stages that we are given opportunities to learn that, interact with the light, interact with the source of existence. And so if I miss it in my earlier stages and I'm progressing, but definitely I haven't developed or haven't learned it. So there's like, I think the mysterious part of divine determining is such that, it's like a divine slap given in terms of just making sense of the whole case in terms of like, how to explain the existence of compassion. I'm not sure if that was clear. Was it?
Yeah, I mean, it made sense to me.
Okay.
Thank you for that. Would anybody else want to add anything, share anything in this matter, or like the second paragraph? That's what we're doing right now. So, this, as for looking after the elderly, it is established in sound narration in many historical events that together with receiving a huge reward to receive the prayers of the elderly, and especially of parents, and to make happy their hearts and serve them loyally. Serve them loyally leads to happiness in both this world and the next. So this is one part. So I think we kind of touched upon this, and Faria's comment also kind of touched upon, realizing who we are, and then based on, that we are not the owners of ourselves, we are given this opportunities, and we are given this existence for a reason. Is the reason just to, study, work hard, have a profession, and then just go away? Or is it there's a reason to actually work on why am I here? What is it that, my duty, my purpose in existence is here? Not my purpose as a student, but my purpose as a student of the Quran, or of my spirit's, how is my spirit side is being educated. Thank you. So, and then the next part is, of course, we discussed that the fortunate child and the wretched child, and how one faces the consequences of their actions and deeds. And it's interesting in the last sentences, yes, Islam requires that one looks after not only relatives who are elderly or innocent, but also elderly believers if one encounters them. And there's another mystery here, through the mystery of true brotherhood of belief. So there was a mystery of compassion, now there's a mystery of the true brotherhood of belief.
Tying it back to sincerity, just like Ryan mentioned.
Yeah, I think that's the good. Thank you. Yeah, you're right. The way Ryan was tying it to sincerity about the true brotherhood of belief, and that one serves to one's utmost ability the venerable sick elderly if they are in need of it.
It's vulnerable or venerable?
Oh, venerable. Venerable, they are.
Vulnerable.
Yeah, it's kind of the same, that they're weak and much weaker than an adult. Sick elderly, just like innocent child, like little kids. And so whatever, if they are presented with them, so one must, to whatever their ability is, one should take care. So I think this is pretty straightforward and understood. Look at that nice fish.
Because of age, wisdom of character. Okay. Avoid worship, honored, respected. Also, it's not the same thing as vulnerable.
Venerable.
Okay. Okay, so it's saying, and that one serves. Okay, so like they're respected, as in esteem the venerable. This needs to be with something on the chat. Respect. Thank you, Brother Adam. Okay.
Respect. Perfect.
Yes.
All right. I think if anybody would like to point out anything else in this section, the 24th remedy, Adam, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. This 2 points about mystery of compassion and then mystery of true brotherhood. You know, I'm still trying to make sense of it because we see sometimes passages like this coming up in the text we read. And there, at one level, and there could be multiple dimensions, you could tell me what you think, but mystery is as though trying to like draw our attention to it. Like there's something very meaningful there and very beautiful there. And one should take notice of it and question its existence and use it accordingly. So, for example, in the case of the mystery of compassion, right, one has to really look at that and say, wow, you know, why is it that a mother loves her children so much and is willing to sacrifice so much for her children? How does that phenomenon exist? And isn't that a very, intentional thing that, pushes me to respond to it? And I think in the same line, then, in the same way, when you see this latter part, the mystery of true brotherhood of belief, and in this time, it's brought in the context of elderly, right? So if you, like it's saying, so you encounter elders, but also elderly believers if one encounters them through the mystery of the true brotherhood of belief. It says elderly believers, and it talks about this brotherhood of belief. Again, this is another kind of a connection one should make. Elderly, we don't know who the believers are, who's a believer, who's not. I mean, if you walk into a hospital and you see elderly, you don't know exactly who's a believer, who isn't. But you can maybe take into account this mystery of the true brotherhood of belief in terms of how you engage with them or how you see them and you interact with them. So what I'm saying is that this latter part, actually from the beginning till the end, it's really motivational. And I happen to just be thinking about some other ways people motivate others to take care of the elderly or the sick or those who are in need of help. And I don't think you can find a better road or a better way than what we're hearing. I mean, even from the beginning, this important trade for the hereafter. In front of you is an important trade for the hereafter. If you go to some of these hospice cares places or like some other medical facilities, sometimes I've been to some, the people are very exhausted and it's hard work. I understand that, but it's also sometimes corners are cut and things are cut, unfortunately, in the care of the elderly. Less so maybe with the young children, but if I was even evaluating some or looking at some different medical fields, and they say some younger child care sometimes is not really looked at as like as highly, not highly. It's not as sought after as in the other maybe roles in medicine and things like this. And so, but of course they have compassion, no doubt. But I'm saying that the methods here that are being discussed in terms of like making you have a real zeal and concern for the sick, the elderly, the young children. Is there a better road? I'm just thinking about that with what I know of some of what I've seen in terms of how people generally care for the elderly and how they talk about it.
Thank you, Adam. Yeah. Would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I mean, I think in general, when we think of altruistic causes or like humanity, people helping each other, people generally, they tend to incline towards these experiences, like helping the poor, helping the needy, elderly. But I think if I'm not connecting it to the purpose of my existence, if my experiences are just bound within a horizontal worldview, then that's troublesome. The zeal will be lost, enthusiasm will be lost, because everything is just changing dynamically. Rather than if I'm able to draw a vertical connection to these experiences, then there can be, like as per what the author is proposing, like, a zeal to it or enthusiasm, because, I'm utilizing this opportunity to really get acquainted with the source of my existence. I'm utilizing this opportunity to really get to know my human self, like who am I, and then through which I get to know the source of my existence. So I think, that's, what I wanted to share.
Yeah, thank you. So those comments makes one realize they're not just bodies, but there's a human side to the individuals. And, for a motivation just for the temporary purpose serves no purpose versus, that's why it's important to have the concept of the hereafter. The motivation has to be for, the trade for the hereafter. That otherwise, as you said, what's the point of all these events and opportunities? But again, to the purpose of my existence, why am I here in this world? So these are all ways and means for me to get to know and work towards, my goal of getting to know my source of existence and, like appreciating and, establishing that relationship. So, but again, these last few sentences about the mystery of the true brotherhood, the author does mention about, wherever you encounter, relatives or elderly believers, and Adam made a point that we don't know, but wherever you see, you will have the opportunity to help, just go for it. That is, that is a case presented to the individuals, right? So to as much as we can, as much as the ability is given, take advantage of that. Don't just ignore it, because that is just like ignoring the, the opportunity to make the trade. I am kind of ignoring that opportunity. And I see H. Bezos' hand is up. Go ahead, please.
Assalamu alaikum. Are you able to hear me okay?
Yep, loud and clear.
Great. So I have a question regarding the mystery of compassion and I guess, the practical aspect of what we're talking about. Right now I am living with two elderly people who are both sick in their own ways, and it becomes easier when I'm aware that the compassion that's given to me for them is not from me, clearly, nor is the ability to take care of them or, anything of that sort. So, when that connection is made, then the service there, from my experience, has more zeal and enthusiasm. But there are times when it becomes difficult because of, I guess, like, there are instances when, at least as far as I'm concerned, whatever the situation may be, that I don't feel as much enthusiasm or zeal as far as the service aspect is concerned. And so, as far as like making that connection, regardless of how I'm feeling. And by that connection, I mean like in an instance where I may not have as much enthusiasm or zeal in service, it becomes difficult because I guess there's like a contradiction there. I don't know if I made myself clear, but I guess, like, you know, bearing in mind that regardless of what happens, it's always an existential sort of training, an opportunity for myself. And maybe perhaps like in an instance where I might not feel as much compassion within myself or as much zeal or enthusiasm, there might be other qualities that I might feel more. I guess like for like something a little bit more practical would be like, I guess I don't really need to get into the details, but that's kind of like the broad overview, if that kind of makes sense. Let me know, I can try to rephrase it again.
Thank you, Hpeza. I think it was pretty clear. And, you know, you talked about the practical aspect, you know, one is going through certain situations, inshallah, khair for everyone. Inshallah, you know, how we are all presented with our own unique situations to you know, and opportunities. That's perfectly understandable. And I think this is the reason how I feel that this author is trying to bring on topics, and Adam kind of mentioned it, that there's a lot of things going on in this particular remedy as well. Like, you know, okay, the author was talking about your sickness and how to deal with sickness and what is the meaning of sickness. And here it seems like in this 24th remedy is, you know, I mean, this is like the second last remedy, but I think he is trying to bring a lot of different concepts along with the sickness. And he introduces, you know, the notion of the innocence, you know, like innocent. Anybody can say, hey, I'm innocent. Like, why are things happening to me? Why am I going through such, you know, exercises or such scenarios, such events? I'm sure everybody has, you know, their own kind of scenario to deal with. But this is, again, you know, how the way the author kind of presents it is very unique and interesting, where he says this is an important trade. There's an important trade in every opportunity, in every calamity, in every disaster, in every hardship. You know, within the hardship there is ease. So there is the important trade to be made. And I know we kind of touched upon it, but, you know, in reality, the practical side, I really fully understand, you know, how when people express, you know, how to make it more, you know, get that zeal going, get that enthusiasm. And it doesn't come, you know, overnight. You know, I'm sure many people can speak to that. You know, nothing happens overnight. Even if I, you know, to learn to a programming language, for example, it takes time, you know, and there's no end to it. I cannot say, hey, I'm an expert in this already. No, I can never make that claim. Same thing with any, like if I'm studying mathematics, you know, there is just constant research going on in different areas. You know, I can never say I'm the master of this. You know, you can, yeah, I specialize in one little thing, but no one can claim that. And the reason why am I saying all this is because the enthusiasm and the zeal, you know, has to do with the, you know, the seeing that opportunity and, you know, the perception, how to shift and that perception and making it something, oh yeah, okay, you know, this is what the belief training is all about. You know, changing your mindset, your perception, and getting those, you know, enthusiasm about living in this world once more. You know, it's not just, hey, I am here and I'm suffering here, and then, you know, I'm going back to my Lord. Yeah, I understand theoretically that this is, you know, the suffering it's temporary. It's not forever. Thank God it's not forever, Otherwise, we are all doomed here. But the thing is, it made the shift of the suffering to the shift of learning, of training is, I think everybody needs to work on that. I work on that. Everybody, I think, can easily say that they work on that. Yeah, so that's what I kind of think. But you want to add?
Yeah, no, it's interesting. First of all, thank you for sharing practical experiences, because that's how we learn and develop and, practically apply it also as far as within our own lives. Like everything is just a means to really ground myself within, my creation. And, I'm not adding anything new, but just like trying to make sense of the case, even for myself. Some keywords for me today were opportunity and enthusiasm. So we all look for that. Human beings want, you want to be enthusiastic, you want to be happy. And we look for opportunities. So without having any kind of opportunities, how am I going to practice all this? How am I going to experience all this? So yeah, I think it's just, I don't know where the author mentioned it, somewhere in one of the texts of this message for the sick we read, that, oh, when the calamity was gone, people are like, oh my God, that was such a blessing, something like that. Because, things are just means, they come in, it's teaching me a lesson, reorienting myself, it's education and development, but then it leaves. It's like flowing water. Sometimes there are tides, ups and down. And even, we all know how this universe works. Also, just like, you all said, nothing is permanent here. If it was, then yeah, it will be a very sad human journey. But I think, yeah, I'm just connecting these events to really connecting with my spiritual side, my human side, what we refer to as our existential reality, should really be one's focus area.
Yeah, thanks you. So it reminded me also about in our previous discussions, like for example, the author was mentioning about the illness, what the wisdom is, what the purpose is, and it was talking about the prayer aspect of the illness. And I think we kind of touched upon it, where the purpose of the prayer is not that you recover from the illness. That was very mind-boggling to me. Like, wait a second, I'm not praying for getting cured, but the purpose is to actually establish my connection. And so if I get cured, I lose that opportunity to connect with my Lord. So that was, it's still not settled properly. It's something I'm thinking about still. It's a really unique way of looking at the universe, that, hey, I'm not, if I'm going through some difficulty, the point is not to be
alleviated.
Not to get that difficulty away, but the point is to actually, keep working on myself to whatever the opportunity at that point is there, make it something that is beneficial for my purpose, which is to get to know my Lord. Because, think about it. Let's say if there's some sickness and I get cured, then I just go on my heedless journey, and I kind of, there's the conditions are such now that I'm no longer connecting with my Lord, because the sickness kind of put me in a standstill where I am now thinking about, hey, I'm going through this illness, and now who, it's not easy, but one has to work on this, that seeing that, am I in charge of my body, or who can create this for me, or who can create this scenario for me? And I know somebody personally shared their story as well of being in the state of, not sickness, and how, the personal journey of the human being is always individual, and everybody goes through their own scenario and their own understanding. So that, but the point I was kind of wanted to make was about this is take that as, perceive that as something that, you are really presented with and turn it into a positive thing. Although it may seem something daunting, something negative, but I mean, of course, this is easily said than practiced. But I don't know, maybe somebody else has a more practical example or wants to highlight it in terms of how to make, something seemingly difficult task and switching it around and seeing that, that this is my way of learning and training and becoming much more mature in my spiritual journey. And this is a means of my purification of, what my real human purpose and existence is. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you, Jazakallah khair, for really sharing your insight into this, because it's helping me as well. Like like you were saying, it's theoretically it's great, but like practically I feel when I apply it. And so like you mentioned where, like Nursi also mentioned about the purpose of, the illness is not, oh man, let me get rid of it. That would be a bonus, but like it's really to acquaint me with what my reality is. And so if it does get cured, but if and I did not really pay heed of the opportunity the way, I was meant to, then yeah, it's a failure on my end. And I was thinking for myself, like, yeah, what's going on? Because oftentimes this is how I end up with. And so I was feeling like this sort of like a blockage in terms of, so I feel like I'm like a water tap. And then so if there's something like maybe in one of the pipes, like something's blocking it, and like water is not like freely flowing. So so I have to really, I guess, like you were saying, reorient myself, reassess my case, so that I can see a clear picture of, what is it that is being given to me, or what is it that I'm experiencing, or all these feelings that are imparted onto me. So I think it's a matter of, like, like you're saying, we all, but it's just, I think I need to clear out any sort of blockage within myself, because ideally I want to be like living like clear flowing water, like water should be flowing clearly. But definitely the source of my existence knows exactly what I need, and so I just need to work on that.
Yeah, thank you, Faria. So I see Brother Ali is here, and just to bring to the point, there was a question on how to procure the enthusiasm and effort in, the looking after maybe the elderly. That was the actual practical question. And we just kind of discussed about, what it means to, the first two paragraphs we discussed quite a bit on how, we can take advantage of the situations and the opportunities. And I see H. Beza, your hand is up. So please, if you want to clarify something, go ahead.
No, rather I want to first thank you for your comments. I think it's, always important to keep that theoretical framework in mind. And I think, hopefully for the most part, I think I understand the basics of the framework. I guess when it comes to practical life, while I'm at peace with like the existence of the events themselves, it's it feels unnerving, because I feel like from my end, I've there's always a lack of justice that I do. So meaning, in other words, like in other words, the human being is at peace when all of their faculties align, I guess. And for me to go through the actions in a certain situation without, or in instances where I might not feel as much compassion while I act compassionately, it feels like there's something wrong, that it's not aligned. And so I think, I mean, I'm still thinking about this entire thing, and as you said, it's always going to be a work in progress, and there's no like I've reached the end at a sort of moment of perfection. But I'm thinking about how to align even the instances where it's aligning how I feel inside or how I know I should be feeling versus how I'm acting together, while keeping that enthusiasm and zeal. And I think my main takeaways, again, is just keeping that, the reality that all of this is just a sort of training again. And I guess, yeah, keeping that in mind and being okay with not seeking perfection from oneself too. Because even the feeling of discomfort, right, that looks to something within me as well. So sorry for rambling. Thank you.
Thank you, Hpesa. Faria, please go ahead.
Yeah, Jazakallah khair, Hatice, for sharing out your really genuine, human, practical experiences, because, this is how we try to make sense of really what the reality is. Without any sort of experiences, I cannot, learn, what my existence points to. And I think what, has remained with me since this morning and just suddenly again got imparted onto me was, I think there was this hadith that was shared, which said that I am what my creator thinks of me. And so I think the enthusiasm and zeal really lies in me finding out my creator. I think that's key for me, at least. So any kind of situation I'm in, my striving should be really finding out the source of my existence and then establishing that relationship between me and my creator. Otherwise, the universe itself, it's all transient. Created beings themselves are in need to be given existence, just like myself. Everything is in need to be sustained, but I am in need of a one that gives me eternal satisfaction that I desire, or the one that quenches my, like the state of being I'm in right now. It's just somebody that provides me succor. So I think inshallah that's I think for myself at least that's the homework I need to work on, looking into my source of existence and everything. I'll go ahead, Hatice, your hand is up again.
Hpesa, your hand is up. Please go ahead.
Oh, sorry, that's from before.
5 more minutes.
All right.
To say,
So thank you. So would anybody else want to say a few things, share any points we made in those, maybe a summary? Mariam and Rayan, would you have anything to say based on what you heard? Anything that's not clear, or you want to further emphasize something? Now is a great opportunity for you to share your thoughts and enlighten us as well. Or anybody else, But especially I would love to hear Mariam and Rayan if they are available.
So I took away like kind of brings in sincerity by like being patient by taking care of like elderly and it has sincerity in here and patience.
Yeah, patience is a virtue. All these hardships, you're being trained for what you can go through. Like when you go through something, like in your hard situations and hard times, it's basically a training and seeing how you would react to it. And you put in your best effort. Uh, it says so procure it through your enthusiasm and effort. So that's basically what that is.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you for the summary. Thank you, guys. Appreciate that. I think, yeah, so this is it for today. If anybody else has any final comments or would like to share anything, because I think we don't, next week we can continue with the last remedy in this section. And I think then we'll have to move on to the next topic. I think but really thank you everyone. And whether Adam or anybody, any final comments you have, or Adam, can you make the closing prayer, inshallah?
Okay, inshallah. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة.